can go with that.
Okay.
Okay, we are going in just a few minutes, but we have too many people in here. So I'm going to ask 2 people, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We need 2 people to step into the hall. Maintain 6 feet for social distancing, please.
And we are live.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if we have Mike Conkey, who is on the agenda with DES, Corey, I'll ask you to join Jens in the hall. All right, with that, we will call this meeting to order. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are going to continue to maintain, following the governor's directive, which is 10 people in the room, no more than. So, welcome. It is May 4th. This is the Broadwater County Commissioners County Business Meeting. This is where we take care of county business for our 6,000 residents. This meeting is open to the public via live stream with YouTube, and we invite everyone to participate. Anything that is not emergent or that is of high public interest, we will be taking care of when we're able to open the doors. While we are in a state of emergency with the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19, we will be following the directives as they have been delivered to us from the governor's office. But documents are available prior to the meeting. We do have this book available for anyone, and of course, online on the community website on the government page. We will follow Robert's Rules of Order and the county civility and open meeting policies. Under Robert's Rules of Order, all comments shall be directed to the board chair for public comment. Everyone, please remain seated. Just raise your hand to be recognized, and we will do so at the appropriate time. Each person who wishes to speak will have an initial 3 minutes to do so. This is to maintain equity with those who are on the live stream. And finally, this disclaimer has been approved by the commission via the weekly minutes and applies to all public comment. Public comment is the opinion of citizens as individuals, and it does not necessarily reflect accurately on Broadwater County actions, operations, policies, practice, or processes. So with that, is there any public comment here in the room? Do we have any public comment online? All right, we will move to our, we have minutes here from our last meeting of April 20th. These were mailed out to the commission. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve this. Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 20th as presented. Is there any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Ann. Okay, so we do have our county sanitarian, public health director, maintenance, not have DES, and what I thought we'd just give you each a chance to give an update of where we are, what you're doing for the community and the citizens, and then open it up for anyone who has any questions. So, Sean, how about we start with you, go to Teresa, and then end with Mike.
Okay. So my name is Sean Rowland. I'm the county sanitarian, or the interim county sanitarian. Over the last week, I've been working with most of the restaurants that are planning on reopening for dine-in service. They've been very proactive in working with me, and I feel like they're doing a good job and are ready to open. And I've sent out certifications indicating, the dine-in restaurants that are ready. I've sent out their certifications. So I'll continue to do that. There's a few that will be today. I'm working with today. I think there's only 3 left, and 2 of them are today. I'll have certified. So I think we're all, from a restaurant standpoint, I think we're moving forward. And then my office is working with the rest of the courthouse to come up with and finalize the courthouse plan for reopening on Wednesday. That's where I'm standing, so.
Thanks, Sean. When Teresa, we'll hear from you and then Mike, and then we'll open it up to questions, if that's good with you guys.
Okay. Teresa Munson, Public Health. Currently in Montana, we have 455 cases. 404 of those have recovered. We've actually tested 14,635 people. We've had 61 hospitalizations, 16 deaths. We currently have 35 cases in Montana that are still active. Broadwater County had 4 with 1 that's still active. Besides working on grants for COVID, I've been taking the business part of educating the public on reopening. Some of them didn't actually close, so I'm just kind of checking in with them to see if they need any information, placards to hang up, making sure that they have their bathrooms posted, and giving out cleaning and disinfecting information to them, and just asking them if they need any help, you know, with anything they need to do to stay open or reopen. So I kind of took the business part of it. I'm a little bit behind Sean because I've been working on some grants, but I hope to have those done in the next couple of days, so.
Thanks, Teresa. Mike, you've been busy this week. You have an update for us?
Mike Meyer, Broadwater County Maintenance, is working with Sean to reopen the courthouse safely.
Thank you. Like I said, you've been busy. You can see it all over the courthouse. So, do we have any questions of you guys in here? Nope. Do we have any public comment outside? All right. Well, thanks for the updates. I expected this, but I appreciate you guys coming anyway, because if people do have questions, at least we're giving them the avenue to ask them and get answers from the experts, so they're getting facts. So thanks for coming. And Teresa, you can stay if you want, because I know we'll be seeing you shortly.
Yeah, I do have something on the agenda here.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Mike. So next on the agenda is reopening with COVID-19. We'll postpone that until the Board of Health meeting this afternoon. And question and answer with our elections administrator. Come on in, Doug. Elections plans for the school and the primary. So thanks for coming, Doug. Last meeting, we had a bunch of questions about can your staff take ballots? How can people vote? How can they drop off their ballots? Can they mail them? How are we going to run the election? Could you just give an overview of that?
Right now, we're doing 2 elections. We're doing the school election and the primary election in June. The school election ballots have all been mailed out. We're waiting for those to come back in. The election's tomorrow, so they have to be in tomorrow by 8 o'clock. I have 2 election judges at the door today and tomorrow to receive the ballots. If they need to do a late registration, then we'll have to make an appointment with them, or they can call when they get here, and we'll deal with that when they get here. The primary elections, since primary elections usually aren't mail ballots, we had to put postage on every mail ballot that we sent out. We had to put postage on the return envelopes. So it shouldn't be a problem for them to mail them back. They all have return postage. If they want to bring them back into the courthouse, we'll do the same thing. We'll have a couple people at the door collecting ballots the last 2 days, the Monday and Tuesday, day before and the day of the election. So there have to be, according to state law, you have to have 2 election judges at the ballot box to receive ballots. So we were gonna use the Opportunity Bank building and use the drive-through, and state law didn't allow for that, so apparently 2 election judges is more secure than a locked vault. The way the law is. Yeah, we will mail out the primary ballots on Friday. All the crew came in yesterday and spent the entire day here stuffing envelopes, and they are all stuffed and ready to go, so they'll go out on Friday.
You came in yesterday
Yep,
on a Sunday. Wow, you have good staff.
I have excellent people.
Yeah. Good boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, good leadership,
Can't
it
say enough
shows.
about it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it should go pretty smooth there. People have been calling, and we've been meeting with the back door and collecting the ballots. We've had a couple little, run-ins where people didn't want to give me the ballot and wanted me to carry the election box out, and I just told them I'm not gonna carry a 50-pound box out here every time somebody wants to put their ballot in. If I'm the election administrator, if you can't trust me, come back on Monday and you can mark in the building and put it in the box.
And your whole staff is qualified to take those ballots by law.
Yep.
As are you.
We've had a few people that just didn't want to drop their ballots off with somebody, so they can be here Monday or Tuesday and put them in the box. And then when we open the box, the same person they would have handed it to is gonna take their ballot out and open it up. The way things go.
Right. Yeah,
This is tough times for everybody.
it is.
I applaud you guys for everything you're doing, because it's not easy working under these conditions and keeping everything going. And you guys are doing a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that.
All right.
Any questions for Doug from you guys?
No, you answered all my questions, so.
Bobby, you had a list of questions last week. Do you have any today?
Not right now.
They got all answered for you? All right. Nicole, any public comments or questions?
Computer's not cooperating. Let me make sure. Nope. There's nothing.
Doug, thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Doug.
All right, Teresa Munson. Hello, are you with Nicole?
I am.
All right, perfect.
Rebecca, nice to meet you.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
All right, Teresa Munson, public health update, standby pay for COVID-19. So this came up at the public health meeting last week. I guess it was just a week ago. And we have a grant that allows us to pay our public health staff for the hours that they're working, which we pay most people with comp. But because of this pandemic, we're able to pay our public health staff overtime. We have also a standby pay for them because of the number of hours that they spend on the weekends. And we limited it hypothetically, or not even hypothetically, arbitrarily to 8 hours for Saturday and 8 hours for Sunday. Well, we heard last week that our public health staff is spending from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, sometimes on the phone, and they have 15 minutes to return into those phone calls. So, are you guys good with increasing, and it's all paid for by the state, the grant, the standby hours to actual hours worked on the weekends? And if, Teresa, do you want to add anything before we comment, or do you want to wait and hear and then comment?
Well, just as I said last week, you know, we roll the phones over at 5 on Friday, and we have them on our cell phones until 8 o'clock on Monday morning. And we're responsible for answering the calls when they come in, just as if the health department was open. And so when we initially talked about, you know, just 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday, doesn't really true to what we actually are responsible for. And so, most of my peers that I've been talking to are getting standby pay from Friday until Monday, because that's what they're responsible for. And I have gotten calls at 7:15 and 10:15 at night, so whenever they do the testing at the state lab, 24 hours a day. They try not to call us in the middle of the night, but if we need to get somebody isolated, we need to do it now and not 10 hours from now, because they could infect 2 or 3 or 20 people in that amount of time. So that's what we're responsible for, and we are responsible for that all the time with communicable disease. It's just that, not in a pandemic situation, so. It's really just to protect the public. We need to get those people isolated as soon as possible. And this weekend I had 3 tests and all of them fortunately were negative, but they were pretty sure one was going to be positive. So I had my phone on me the whole time waiting for that call.
Thanks, Teresa. You guys have any thoughts? Are you good with this plan? And perhaps doing it from Friday at 5 like the rest of the public health through Monday at 8? Mm-hmm. And then if these guys do work, we're going to pay the overtime, not the step 5.
Sure.
Okay, so since that is a change of policy essentially for this pandemic, perhaps a vote would be a good way to go so that we can add that to the paperwork.
All right, I'll move we pay the standby time and for the public health department from Friday at 5 to Monday at 8. Is that correct?
Do we have a second for that?
I'll
motion?
second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to change the standby pay from Friday at 5 to Monday at 8 for public health during the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. Is there any public comment?
I'm just trying to clarify. Are you saying that basically the entire weekend is being paid as standby pay? Or are you saying during that period of time which you get to call, there will be standby?
According to the rest of the public health peers around the state, 5 p.m. Friday through 8 a.m. Monday. And that is not overtime, it's just the standby. So yes. No public comment? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll put that in writing for you, Teresa. And you're still here for the Behavioral Health Crisis Response Funding Opportunity Grant. Can you bring us up to speed on what this grant is, who's eligible, where we're at, and what you'd like to see us do?
Sure.
No, I'm putting a lot on you.
So when this grant has been out before and we applied for it and we didn't get it. And so they had the money left over, and so they decided to bring this grant back around in hopes that more communities would get that for their behavioral health in their community. And we know that a lot of people are severely impacted, especially those that already have behavioral health issues. When this came around, I was already working on 2 very large grants. And so I had passed it off to my mental health team, the LAC. Just asked them if they would be interested in picking up this grant, just because I didn't have time to do it. And it really is a behavioral health grant. The only thing that's different this time is that they put a statement in here that counties and tribes are encouraged to collaborate with their health departments and their local behavioral health and social service providers to ensure this application is reflective of each community's needs and that the funding is dispersed to entities that can best implement the chosen activities. So in the grant, there's like 6 activities, and what you do is you go through and you figure out where your funding is needed, and then you write a little synopsis of what you're gonna do with that money. I actually made a few copies of what I did this weekend. And I only copied the part that has, what I wrote, the rest of the grant. I see. So initially, Wynn was working on this grant, and I did not know that. When I asked, I sent it out to several of the mental health president and a few of the other people in the LAC for Broadwater County, and I didn't know that anybody picked it up or was working on it. No one got back to me on that, and so I guess I just assumed that nobody was doing it, or they decided not to do it, whatever. And then Laura asked me if I could educate her on this grant. And so actually I had to educate myself on the grant because I really didn't take the time to find out. I knew what it was before when the grant came out because I was on that team. It was Wynn and myself, Larissa, and Melinda, and we had worked on this grant before, and we didn't qualify at that time for the grant. So they added a few more things, and it was more community oriented, and so it's really not split up to public health. It's not split up to behavioral health. They want the funds to go out to whatever we need them for, but specifically related to behavioral health. So, you know, there's things like PPE and stuff like that in there. Communication, flyers, public service announcements, newspaper articles, telehealth, you know, all of that stuff. We can actually get funding for, which we do not have the funding for. We do not have the funding right now for the peer-to-peer program. And that is mainly what Wynn focused on, was the peer-to-peer program. So what I did was I left that information in there with a few additions. Because Melinda has to be supervised, so I did add some supervisory costs in there, and insurance, which I'm not exactly sure that is allowed, but you know, all you can do is ask for it, and if you get it, good, and if you don't, you have to figure out something else, I guess. But so we have lots of different coverage areas. ER, detention, law enforcement, community service provider coverage, mobile crisis response, like I said, all kinds of PPE, stuff like that, telehealth, information sharing, housing, which none of my grants actually have money. If we would have an inmate that would test positive but yet be ready or need to go to a motel, if we had a homeless person that needed to go to a motel for isolation, the county would end up picking up those costs. This grant will pay for that. So if we have a positive person who doesn't have a home to go to be isolated, we can make a contract with the motel, isolate them at the motel, and have the funds to pay for it, rather than that coming out of Broadwater County's funds. So I put that money in there as well. I guess Mike is not here, but there also, several counties were, put in for fogging, which I hadn't thought of, until I visited with some of my peers, but they actually put in funding for fogging. And I heard this through the grapevine that Mike might have already purchased stuff for fogging. I'm not sure. But it's a possibility that we could get money for fogging as well. And that, would be something that wouldn't have to come out of maintenance or come out of Broadwater County general fund. If we could get money for fogging, that it's pretty expensive to do that. So I just put in what I could come up with, and I came up with $34,214 without the fogging. So we can buy things like tablets, disposable earbuds, a set of regular earbuds for like Melinda. We can do cell phone plans, internet, Wi-Fi. We can get set up with telehealth equipment, printing costs and stuff like that. So most of that stuff, I know there's some concern that we had to spend that money by September. Generally, how my grants work is, they tell you they want you to spend the most of the money by September, only hoping that the COVID is going to be over by then. But we don't know that. This could go on for a year, or it might be over in a month. We don't know, or it could reemerge in the fall. And so as far as like spending the money on education, which would be printing and advertising and all that stuff, PPE and whatnot, those things would be purchased as soon as they're available. And so a lot of that money potentially could be spent by September. It's a year-long grant though, so we have a year to spend the money. And when I talked to Carrie Cried at the state, who is one of them that's involved in this, she said, we want counties to have the money, and, we want them to spend it on things that they feel they need for their county in the near future, because as you know, we can't get PPE. So right now it's pretty hard to get it. She said they're not real hung up on that September date. So so this is what I've done. And the really important thing about this that I really didn't realize until I talked to them at the state is that they really wanted it to be a joint effort, not the effort of one person, which I appreciate when taking that on, because I really didn't feel like I had the time. But speaking with at least 3 of my peers from 3 different counties, they all formed a team. And so they have a team of like a social worker or a licensed clinical behavioral health person, somebody like Larissa, Melinda, Wynn, myself. So they have a group of people that are actually doing it. So the money's not, like 20,000 gonna go to the peer-to-peer support group and 20,000 going to public health to get the PPE for the behavioral health people. It's supposed to be a group effort, and most of them did include at least one of their county accountants, just so that everybody, everything could be put in the right place and get paid for in a timely fashion and that kind of thing. So no, they don't just write you a check for 40,000. It is a reimbursed kind of situation. I work, all of my grants kind of work that way though. outside of, my typical 5 grants. You don't get to just say, well, I spent $20,000 on this, or I have one grant where they just sent me the money and that's it. That they just don't work that way. So you have to be able to prove that you spent this much money on this and this and this and this. I don't think it's gonna be that hard because I do that all the time with my grants. The only thing that's gonna be hard about it is actually getting the supplies because the supplies are short. I don't think we'll have trouble getting tablets and all that stuff. That can probably be purchased fairly quickly and, so that's not an issue. So I haven't had all that much time. This just kind of came about end of last week, and I worked on it this weekend, and this is what I came up with. And so I guess we just need to, I haven't spoken to anyone about it because it's only Monday and I haven't had time. But what I'd like to do is just reach out to several individuals. And I did talk to Larissa, and she's all in for it. So we just need to see if we want this to be a group effort, rather than put it all on one person's shoulders, and just all work together. And with Debbie's help, we can make sure that we get everything money-wise what we need to happen. So.
Thank you, Teresa. This is excellent. Guys, any questions or comments for Teresa?
I'd love to speak.
Hang on just a second. Do you guys have anything first?
Not right now.
Okay, all right.
So let's clarify a few things here to be along this. One, we do have peer-to-peer funding. We came here in February, got peer-to-peer funding through Hill. Okay, 2271 is the account number, but you never called me. That information that you're basing is probably most of the stuff that I submitted in it. Because last week, I sent it all to you guys for this to be approved. Because the commission sent it to me, you sent the grant to me as well.
I did.
Okay, so sitting there going, I didn't know anything about it is wrong. Okay, I'm the one that did the
I
mobile.
didn't say
Stop.
that, man.
I just listened to you ramble for 15 minutes. I'm the one that took the
We're gonna
time.
have civility.
You know what?
Bring it down to.
No one's talked to me. I'm the one that did the mobile crisis grant. I'm the one that submitted it. Not you, I did it. It took me 8 hours of my day to do it. I'm the one that did this grant because everybody kept, these 3 all sent it to me. You sent it to me. So I'm the one that filled it out. I took it over and have that guy sign it. Because it doesn't say the chair. It just says you need a commissioner to sign it. Okay? That was to get that money in there. However, it's all reimbursed. So you have to spend it. So where you guys got money that you're going to spend on this, do they ask for reimbursement on? Because you don't have anything in place. And I said on Thursday that if you're going to do this and add things that I cannot report on because you have to show where your services were rendered, who they went to, what you bought, and how. We already have a laptop. We already have a phone that we paid for. You didn't know that because you haven't been part of the process. Okay? So this is not somebody's going to send you a whole bunch of money and say, here, make yourself do whatever. These are things. I talked to Mary Collins at length over this. No one asked me. You called Larissa 3 times on Friday or twice on Friday. You never picked up the phone and called me, knowing damn good and well I'm the one that wrote that. Did you?
Well, because your emails are so rude, I just didn't. I just didn't.
Because I'm the person that gets things done. If you're going to continue to send me something and go, we need to do this, I did it. And it didn't come into faction until I'm assuming Commissioner Obert said, hey, why don't you look and see if we can get all this 40,000?
No, she did
Okay.
not say that. And
Well,
you
you know
shouldn't
what?
assume that.
If you would have asked, you sent it to me. You sent the thing to me. So if you sent it to me, why would you not think that I was going to take care of it? Because I've been taking care of everything else that comes along peer to peer. It's not my job description. It's not my job title. Okay, I did it because I care, and it's a necessary evil to have in our communities. We have no behavioral health issues. So because you turned it down, and docs turned it down, the hospital turned it down to do anything with peer to peer because everybody's overworked. I'm the one that took it on.
Okay, all right. I don't want any more arguing. This is a.
This isn't an argument. This is a statement. Okay?
So we have a grant opportunity. Thank you for the time you put in, Lynn. Thank you for the time you put in, Teresa. This is an opportunity for our county. Now, we understand we can get, by drawing people together into a collaborative unit, we can actually help our county should this continue. Like Teresa said, we don't know if it's for a month, a week, a year, we don't know. This grant gives us the opportunity to plan and gives us the opportunity to help fund some behavioral health needs that we desperately need. So you both put in great effort, and we thank you both very, very much. Right now, we have a grant that could address a bunch of different issues, including, I'm going to ask for fogging, if that is something you think that we could add to this. But let's go ahead and do what we can for our community since there is this opportunity, because at some point we're going to need fogging, PPE to pay for peer-to-peer, either from PILT or another source. Why not try and maximize what we can do? Because at the end of the day, this is about our 6,000 citizens, nothing more. It's about them. So, Teresa, could you add fogging? Would you advise adding fogging?
I actually wanted to talk to Mike about that.
Okay.
So, because he would be the one that would know whether we needed that or not. I don't know. And like I said, I haven't had time really to talk to anybody about it. I just did what I do on my grants this weekend, and wrote up, spoke with 3 of my peers and got the information that they were sending, and just went from there. And all 3 counties have almost exactly the same thing on theirs that I do. So
it shows a vision, and I appreciate that. Are you guys good if to approve this grant, it's due on Thursday, and allow Teresa to work with Mike Conkey on the fogging question? If they think it's a good idea.
it would be Mike Meyer.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because
he would
he would be the one that would do the funding.
Okay. So if Mike Myers thinks it's a good idea, would you guys be good with adding that and then submitting this grant? I would suggest perhaps with any further edits, if you want to give it another read through or give it to part of your team. And then also we need to approve forming a team. And I think it'd be wise to include Debbie as well, since she would be putting together the different object codes within the different budgets.
And just for clarification, I actually sent that grant out to at least 4 people. So not just Lynn. And I guess my bad. I would have just assumed that somebody would have got back to me and told me that they were working on it.
I have a question.
I appreciate that. Yes, Corey.
Are you suggesting submitting it in its current form? And what would be the implication of the peer-to-peer program then? Is it funded by it? Is it removed from the sheriff's office oversight and now public health? I'm not clear on that detail.
That was not
In terms
my
of what you're
intention.
suggesting.
Not my intention at all. And that was why all the other counties are working as a group, so that the sheriff's department, because they get most of the referrals, although in Wynn's email, he said we get referrals from the school, the hospital, and one other place. But his office is gonna get most of the referrals. We know that. We need the sheriff's department to be a part of that group, because people call 911 when they have a behavioral health issue. The only reason that public health is combined into this is, for all the rest of the stuff that is on there, the stuff that's available. And I'm not just, I am not about just going after $40,000 because it's there for the taking. But we don't know what's gonna happen. This thing is not over. We don't know what's gonna happen in the future. And if we miss out on the money now, where are we gonna get it? From the general fund?
And this does have peer-to-peer in it.
It does?
On page 2, it has 16,320 and $4,494, and speaks to the need of the peer-to-peer specialist. I won't read the whole thing, but yes, that is included.
Supervision and insurance for Louisa.
Yes. So, yes,
Can I provide a comment?
yes.
I'm starting to have a hard time with what's going on here, okay? I get a call from Larissa on Wednesday or Thursday asking me to mediate this issue. And I knew next to nothing about it. So I don't feel like there is a team approach going on. And Teresa, I think you're going off half-cocked on a couple of these things. It's like that email Friday about mandating the sheriff's office to do a bunch of
Okay,
things.
that's a
No,
different subject.
it's
Yes,
all related.
we're gonna stay
I'm
on the
commenting. I'm
the-
commenting, it's all
grant.
related. I'm gonna say what I have to say.
Corey, this is a
I-
county commissioner's business meeting.
And I'm,
What we need to do is stick to the agenda, and right now, the agenda item is behavioral health crisis response funding opportunity grant. We can talk about the other later. This is becoming an attack on Teresa, and that is not the purpose of
that's
a
not my
Broadwater County
intention.
Commission
My intention is to
meeting. So
recommend,
let's stick with the grant.
I'm gonna
if you
make
would
my
please.
comment, and I'm recommending to the commission to exercise a little more oversight here. And Teresa, you're sending things out saying the Board of Health ordered something when they didn't order it. We all know they didn't. And this grant, if we're gonna do this as a team approach, how in the world are you thinking it's gonna be successful when you exclude the office and that not only has the majority of these referrals, but who's done up to this point, the majority of the work to stand up this program? That needs to happen.
She has.
I'm not
excluded
asking you to
anyone.
correct every one of my responses, Chairman.
Then just be
Chairwoman.
accurate, that's all I'm asking.
I am being accurate as I understand it. You want to object and say whatever you're going to say afterwards, it's fine. Let me make my point. I also think you're not exercising good judgment. I mean, you just voted on an all weekend standby pay. I understand we all work on weekends. You want to compare the late nights and the weekends? No one's going to match Win Meehan or Nick Rouser or Brandon Harris or me, probably. Okay. What I'm suggesting here is let's not decide that because we're in the middle of this pandemic that we're just taking our judgment on some of these financial things and throwing them out the door. If you're going to do this grant, then number one, the sheriff is an essential participant and leader in this grant. So let's not go around him. Let's ensure that his needs are met and he's satisfied with how it's doing. He has raised some very good points about how you're actually going to track and verify some of the performance measures that are required for this grant. And let's not go about assuming that he's not doing it when in fact he is doing it. And let's not decide, oh, we don't like what he did, we're going to go ahead and cut him out of the process and submit our own. That's an improper procedure. And I'm recommending to the commission, I don't care if you guys disagree with me, I'm giving you my perspective. The fact that I have a person calling me out of the blue and asking me to mediate this dispute because she's trying to do her job and serve the community and she's stuck in between these two individuals tells me that the process is broken. And I don't know what the final outcome is supposed to be or what the best answer is. What I'm saying is the process should be listen to the guy who knows the most about this, and that would be the sheriff, before you make your decision.
Thank you. Do either of you have anything to add?
I mean, if we go forward, can we form this team to administrate this grant?
I believe we can. I
can we
believe
do that?
Teresa addressed that and said she wanted to form it.
Yes, I did that this weekend. Nobody would have known about that. This was a plan. This is not set in stone. I had no intentions of leaving Win out of it whatsoever. But it was the weekend. I wasn't gonna call Win up on his weekend and say, hey, I have an idea. This is what I came up with this weekend. Larissa and whatever Win had going on was behind my back. I have no idea what happened there.
That's my point. You're operating in a vacuum.
Let her finish.
Well, you just said that. You were mediating. Who are you mediating? Wynn and Larissa?
No, you and Wynn and Larissa's saying I'm being told something different by both of them, and I'm stuck with just trying to do my job. I don't know what to do. My point is, let's be inclusive. The fact that you're working on this all weekend, and now you're asking the commission to vote on a document, I doubt the sheriff's seen it. I haven't seen it. So I don't need to see it. I'm saying let's do this
I haven't asked anybody to
together.
vote on anything. I asked them to take a look at an idea
I got it.
that I had. I had every intention of getting together with every person in that group and saying, this is what I think we need to do. If you think I'm wrong, fine, I'm out.
All right. I
You
just
know,
feel
but
like
that's what Wynn said. If this isn't this way, I'm out. So
And let me, since everybody seems to be talking about me, and and everybody in this room is probably the most subject matter expert when it comes to the peer-to-peer, because I have been the one that's been doing this and
I
doing the
agree.
research on it. Okay, first off, you're right, I did say this, because what I looked at when I went to the grant and talked to Mary Collins, because the other gal's on maternity leave, I went through there and she says, this is what you have to do. So when I put my name on it, I know this is what I'm capable of doing. This is the information that I know I need to have. So when it comes to reporting, because as you put in your email to me, is that it needs to come through the sheriff or a designatee, I need to be able to find that information and get it done in a timely fashion. If you think the only thing that I have to do in my day is peer-to-peer, we've all lost our minds. I've got many things, and everybody thinks that I don't have to deal with COVID. You're completely wrong as well. So when I put that in there, that's what I was comfortable doing, $22,360, because I knew that we had the information at hand. Same with everything else that you brought up. But I do know, because I talked to Mary Ellen, that you talked to her. You talked to Larissa several times. I think you even reached out to Melinda. At no time during Thursday or Friday did you ever call me, email me, or anything else to try to get my side of what I put in there. Okay? So if you're going to sit there and tell me that you were trying to keep me in the loop, you went around everybody else that was part of that mental health peer-to-peer and talked to them. You never talked to me, and you know I'm the one that did that grant, because I'm sure it got forwarded on to you. Because I can guarantee you, if I look at that grant application, 9% of the verbiage on it is probably mine. That's probably my numbers that I put in there. And I went and I told them in the email, you have to be able to pay this and then send it in for reimbursement. According to Mary, if it doesn't meet their criteria, they're not going to reimburse. So you have to have funds there somewhere to say, oh, we spent this, and they didn't reimburse it. That was the point again. I mean, no one again wanted to reach out and ask me or question, right? Because the fact is they, oh, you're rude. I am a busy person. I have lots of tasks. And it ain't just one thing that I get to sit around. I don't get to lock my office and hide away from the world. I still have to go out and deal with people, make arrests, make sure our inmates are safe and my staff is safe, and then along with all the citizens that have all the questions. So yes, I would appreciate, my phone hasn't been shut off since 2010. I think you can get called on something that's as emergent as this. We're on a time frame. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows my email goes to my phone. Anybody could have reached out to me, no one did. Okay? So when it comes down to this, can you form a team? Absolutely. But you have to have the criteria that's in place, and somebody has to be in charge. And somebody has to be able to delegate how this is going to go. Okay? That's the whole point of what I was trying to get at. You know, we can sit here and say, let's form a team, but we've never even established a board for the LAC, and it's been how many months? We've never approved the bylaws for the LAC. It's been how many months? So, you know, trying to create something new that we can't even finish, we can't even get our old stuff up to task, but now we want to create something new. So to me, it seemed to be the most advantageous of us to get that money, to bring it back and do it underneath a peer-to-peer program to make sure we're getting resolved. That was my thought, because we do have money in the account. But who am I to say? I'm just a stupid sheriff. So.
Those are your words. So I asked Larissa how much she needed for supervision. I asked her, she asked if there was any way they could get payment for her insurance. They're really, all they were questions. They were questions that I needed answers to for the figures in the grant. I did not talk to Melinda. Never had any communication with her whatsoever.
So why wouldn't you, since she's the peer-to-peer specialist?
I realized that when,
The key components of this, Teresa, you didn't talk to, you just didn't talk to us. So, you know, that seems kind of silly to go out and ask for grant funds. We're not gonna talk to the two people that are probably the most involved in the whole process.
We're gonna bring this back around.
Feel free.
What we have on the agenda is this grant. We have a deadline coming up of Thursday, I believe it's the 7th. So what we will need to do is approve this grant in order for it to be applied for. Teresa, you've worked with a number of people. There are a number of people interested in this. I think perhaps with the commission, we can help form a team and maybe help bring them together in a civil way. We do have an LAC, we do have a board, we do have bylaws. So I want to set that piece of the record straight. How do you guys feel about this grant? Do you want to post a meeting Thursday so we can get it approved and get it out there? Do you want to drop it as was presented to us this week? That would not be my opinion. Or do you want to today go ahead and give authorization to move forward? As we have it now, provided we will allow talking about the fogging option and edits, because every time we write something, edits make it better and more clear. But doesn't necessarily have to change the meaning.
I would like to make one comment.
Please.
This is not gonna work without Lynn. It's not, and I never, ever said that it was going to. There's no way that we can do this because the way this system works in our community is that our behavioral people call 911, or they're in the jail, or, you know, whatever the case may be. That was never, ever my intention. It will not work without the sheriff's department, so, I just thought a group would be good. That's what most of the rest of the counties are doing, so, I thought it was a good idea. So if I wasted my entire time, I did.
And let me add.
And I think we could get a team together, and I think it should also include Lynn. Perhaps we can lead that to bring people together. Did you have one
It's
more
important.
comment?
This is important. Peer-to-peer mental health is important. I don't care if it's in the peer-to-peer. Mental health in our community is important. That's not my issue. What my issue is I don't want something to get set out there and approved, and then I have a responsibility that I am unaware of that is being placed on me that I can't come up with. That's my issue. No one has that ability to dictate to me what I'm going to do in reporting. You bring it to me, I'm more than happy to sit down and discuss it and figure out the best way and the best approach to do it. But to have somebody, and that's why I said, if you alter what I do, then you're adding a bunch of things that I can't come up with a rationalization. I'm not just gonna spend money in hopes that the state and some board that's not familiar with our community, our county, or our program to deny it, and then it comes out of my budget at the back end, because I don't have the money in my budget. That's why I fought hard to get the funding from Phil for peer-to-peer. So it really does come down to communication, and it comes down not just from you, but all three commissioners had it. The only one that responded to the fact that I set it out was Commissioner Delger. So that's you understand that this is a very dynamic, very fluid thing, and I understand the time constraints. And I'm not saying what you put together is wrong, but really, in reality, if you want the sheriff's involvement, then you need to put him in the forefront and not on the back end. And that's what's been happening. The cart's been put in front of the horse
I
far
don't
too long.
believe that though, Lynn, because, you know, I just reached out to people to ask questions. That's all I did. I needed to know funding wise what we were looking at. I already had your figures, so I already knew what you were needing and what you were asking for. It was the other stuff that I needed funding questions asked. So that's why I asked Larissa what she needed for supervision, what she needed for telehealth, they were gathering information. I already had your information. There's two ways this works. It either works by contract or by task order. If it's a task order, it's my responsibility. If it's a contract, it's anybody's, commissioners, the sheriff, whoever. And so the plan was, my plan was to bring to everybody was that, should we do it as a task order? That means you come up with the deliverables and you fill them out. They are actually attached to the public health deliverables. Or should we do it as a contract? And that might mean that you might have to do it. But if you have a team approach, all you would have to worry about is what you specialize in, peer to peer. I would worry about the PPE. Larissa maybe would worry about the video conferencing, the, that kind of stuff. We could have one person taking on advertising, printing, stuff like that. And so my idea with the team approach was that not one person would get stuck doing the whole thing. So the whole process for me just started. It just started. And I didn't know you were working on it till a few days ago. So I don't even know how this got so blown out of proportion and how we had to have a mediator when all I was doing was gathering information. So.
Let's go ahead and bring it back to the commission here for just a second. Do you guys want to postpone till Thursday, or do you want to continue on this now?
Well, I think we're gonna go forward, we need to establish this team, whoever that team members are gonna be, and I know, Teresa, you mentioned some people that you thought were important.
Well, the team that I actually thought of, and this can be changed, it can be added to, doesn't matter how big the team is, how small the team is. The few that I mentioned obviously win. He has one of the biggest parts in it. I actually was just anticipating helping with PPE, putting information together. That's my job, is prevention and education. Take each person's specialty, Debbie, Melinda, Larissa, putting these people together who all have a specialty and making this whole plan work. And I'll be happy to give you a copy of what I did this weekend and yes, I know, everybody works weekends. But this has a deadline, so that's why I did it this weekend, because I didn't have time to do it before. We're all busy, I know that, and I'm not saying I'm any busier than anybody else. But for this to work, I really feel like it has to be a team approach. I wouldn't expect Wynn to have to come up with stuff that is not in his area of expertise, as I hope he wouldn't expect that from me. So it's just a plan. It's not, it was just something I was, I write a lot of grants, so I thought, well, I'll come up with a plan. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And all I was doing last Friday was gathering information.
Thank you. So again, do you guys want to postpone this till Thursday morning, bring the whole team together? Do you want to make a decision now? What do you want to do?
But is the team concept gonna work, first off? That's what I need to know. Sheriff,
I don't know why it wouldn't.
okay?
I
I
guess the thing
think
is,
it'll work well.
the one thing is how do you, most people that are on that are the same people that are on the LAC. So that's kind of the same breath in what you're saying. I mean, Larissa's part of the LAC, Teresa's part of the LAC, I'm part of the LAC. That's in Melinda.
And Debbie.
And then you brought one more.
Debbie.
Debbie would be the only one.
So if we can agree on that, then is contract or task order the best way to go?
I'd say.
Because if you do the task order, then that spreads it out, doesn't it, Teresa?
Well,
For the team
actually-
to help?
Actually, if we do a task order, it puts most of the pressure on me, because it
Okay.
adds it right to the public health, grants. She told me it just kind of tacks it on to my public health grants.
Okay.
If, she said that is the easiest way to do it, the contract is a little bit more complicated. But I can't do a contract without WIN. And I can't do a task order without WIN, and I don't think WIN can do the contract without help if we do it where we're not just going for money for peer-to-peer. So, that's why those 6 categories are there. It's not just for peer-to-peer. I mean, you can read that in the information. So, and I don't think that 3 other counties are wrong. And that's what we do in my line of work. We check out and see what other counties are doing. We tweak their information, they tweak our information. If somebody's got a good idea, we pass it on. We work together that way. So I got 3 other contracts just like this from 3 other counties, and tweaked it to what I thought would work for our county. Because one of them was Cascade, and they're pretty big, and that kind of is hard to tweak. But
Okay, so did the other counties use a contract?
did they what?
Did they use a contract? Is that what they're doing?
I haven't got down to that. I think Marr County, is doing the task order. I'm not sure what Cascade and Jefferson are doing.
Yeah.
For sure. But like I said, this just happened. So it wasn't like there was just a ton of time to, I was gathering information as fast as I could. And then it was Friday, and, I had other stuff on my plate, so.
If you could consider that, if we want to.
So postpone this till Thursday at 9?
Yeah,
If I could, I would, for the cleanest way to be able to record, and that was the thing, is that's why I suggested under that 2271 account, if that's where that money was being reimbursed, if you were spending it out of there, because there's money in there, and part of that can go into Melinda's wage, it can go into Larissa's wage, that's already in that account. So what you're doing is reimbursing those funds that were being expended due to this. And it would change the dynamic a little bit when you start talking about the hotel cost. We don't have I don't think there's that falls under travel, I believe. So I don't know if there's a travel component under that 2271. They're supposed to be done, I'm not sure. But that's the cleanest way to do that. In my mind, because all the ins and outs are coming back in. You see what I'm saying? We can pull that report and show what's going out, what's coming in, and match it up very consistently. But it also eliminates that concern that if the state, that group up there says, no, we're not going to reimburse that expense, just like DOR does all the time, that we're not trying to find a chunk of money from somewhere else. And that was the reason why my suggestion was that to go into there, is that money is there, and whether or not the panel at the state level agrees with us or not, it's not going to jeopardize the same effect.
And those are details that we can maybe put together with Debbie. She would be the expert on the finances. But for now, we have been at this for almost an hour. And the question is, do we want to move forward now, or do we want to postpone till Thursday, put the team together, and then make the final decision? Because we only have till Thursday.
I'm not sure I'm available.
I'd suggest first thing in the morning so that we have all the way to fight it out, if need be.
if I may, the only other one that would be a question on whether or not we have the ability to be part of Team for Debt. I don't perceive any issues with Melissa or Melinda. It would just be having ability. Maybe less than 5 people everybody else. So.
Teresa, would 9 AM work for you on Thursday?
I didn't bring my phone. I didn't bring my calendar.
Let's do tentatively at 9 AM on Thursday, if you guys are good with postponing. And then if it doesn't work for you guys, let us know and we can change that. We'll get it
I'm sorry,
posted tomorrow.
if we could do 9:30, because I've been asked to be part of Lewis and Clark's task force. And that meeting is from 8:30 to 9:30.
Do you want to do 10 so you have a little wiggle room?
Yeah.
10 o'clock, good with you guys?
Okay.
Okay, if it doesn't work for any of the members of the team, let us know and we'll change it. We'll
And
stick with 10 for now.
I encourage everybody, bring your ideas, take that piece of paper, write on it, whatever, I just wrote that as I write my other grants, and so it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just, it was a plan, a beginning, somewhere to start, other than just trying to get some money for peer-to-peer. I obviously knew that we had money from peer-to-peer because I was also on that group. I knew that we had already had money approved for peer-to-peer, but if we want that to continue, we're still gonna have to have money for it. And do we want to, have to battle that year after year after year? So,
So Nicole, do you have any public comments? Would you like to read those to us, please?
I will. The first one is from Readout News. It appears that even when the citizens call for accountability, there is a door shut without any respect. Thank you, County Attorney Corey Swanson, for seeking truth and transparency. Cheryl Campbell, ditto. Thank you, County Attorney. Another one from Readout News. Thank you, Sheriff, for working to clarify the record. Cheryl Campbell, I would like to thank the County Attorney and Sheriff for bringing additional info regarding a grant that would only be reimbursed after expenditures were made. Ross Johnson, maybe start over and get everyone on board first. Craig Burns, wow, we spend a lot of time talking about how to get money.
All right, thank you very much for the comment, folks. And thanks for reading this. All right, so we are postponed till Thursday, tentatively 10 AM on this, and more information to come. And for the team, yes, here, for the team, it would be good if everyone can do some preliminary work and come here with finished product. With maybe just a couple of questions. We don't need to start from scratch on Thursday. Right, anything else? Okay, we will move on then. Nicole Brown, thank you, Teresa, thank you, Wynn. Nicole Brown, Community Development, Park Trail Estates, Garrett Joe, no build zone limitations and plan.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Garrett.
Hi.
Take this one at 16.
Perfect.
I don't know.
And Commissioners, I gotta leave in about 5 minutes for another meeting, so I have a short part to talk about and then leave it to you. But if somebody else wants to start first, we're not gonna go first.
What do you need to talk about?
About this Park Trail grant.
Oh, okay, all right. Let's go ahead and get set up. Make sure we have to spend.
so this is a copy of the final filed plat of the Park Trail Ranch Estate. Garrett Joe is the owner of which lot are you, Garrett?
Number one,
Number 1.
Is it Joe or Jody?
Joe.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good seeing Jody.
A little closer to you. In topography. So tract 1 is at the north end, and you can see a no build zone there. Garrett Job is requesting to essentially build on the back or the north half of this tract 1. We're just trying to figure out how to get him across the no build zone and what can be placed in the no build zone. And I know Corey, you've spoken with Tara DePue.
Yeah, so I've spoken with Tara DePue, who's done a lot of the legal groundwork on this. And the short version is, I understand you guys are looking at a modification to basically define no build zone so that you can do a culvert that's approved by an engineer. Tell me if I get any of these details wrong.
A driveway of any sort, so
Yeah.
whatever it takes, if it's culverts that are engineered or a short bridge or a.
Yep. Because the way that layout is, you've got that wash there, you gotta get across.
Or-
Okay. And so I think long-term, we need to look at, future plats and our regulations, doing a different, maybe a more detailed definition of no build zone. I've talked to multiple lawyers and planners, and we all get into these food fights over what no build zone means. And so that's kind of the long-term plan. For this immediate plan, you're looking at a definition of no build zone that would allow what Mr. Job wants to accomplish. Here's the issue with this, and this is very important. It's a procedural thing that has to be done. Because that plat is the layout approved by the county, and it has covenants and conditions on there that were required by the county. And now every property owner has that. When they get that property, they get it subject to those conditions. So if you want to approve an amendment to the plat and the conditions, which is what this would be with this definition, that's fine. But you have to notify every owner there, because they have to have a say in it. So if every owner goes, yep, I consent, provide proof of notification of consent, no problem. If someone objects, then they can bring the objection in, and there's a way we can address their objection. But the problem is if the county approves a modification of that condition without notifying all the landowners, then we're in big trouble. So that's the only thing I want to really foot stomp. That's the important part of how we do it. Everything else, as far as the definition you worked out, as far as your plan of how they're working with you, I don't have any problem with that. As long as we procedurally make sure every property owner knows. And it might be the developer owns 10 of those and they haven't all sold yet, then the developer needs to be notified as well. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. That's my only concern. Okay.
Corey,
Good?
notification and consent. So if we can prove notification, but somebody chooses not to respond, are we required to require them to respond, or proof of notification is sufficient?
You're not required to make them respond. The cleanest way to do it is whoever does the notification says, I talked to Bob Smith and I got a signed consent. And if someone doesn't want to do it, then we basically give them like a 30-day deadline. Hey, you need to give us a deadline. The big thing is we want to show that they had notice and had opportunity to object. Okay, so that's a key thing. And a reasonable opportunity, not 1 day, but 30 days or whatever. And I would recommend, if we get where we have someone that hasn't responded, let me and Nicole go know, and I'll call them and go, hey, this is important. This is going to be a permanent change on your property, probably to your benefit, but you just give us a yes or a no.
Mhm.
And if it's down to 1 or 2, we'll just push on them and say, just give us an answer. And if they object, then there's a process of bringing them in and find out what the objection is, et cetera. So the reality is, I mean, it's basically the burden's on you, but we'll help out if we get 1 or 2 people that aren't responding.
Okay. Yep.
Sometimes we ran over your dog and they don't like your something, we'll be happy to call. But
So Corey, you suggest that Garrett take the lead on that and get the information?
yeah, if it's his request, it really would be up to him to do it.
Okay.
But obviously, if we run into an issue, we can procedurally contact him. So.
Right.
Shouldn't be a big deal. I honestly think, looking at it, you have the same problem that several people in that subdivision have.
Yeah,
They're probably going to be okay with it.
Mine's,
Yours is worse.
yeah, a little bit exclusive because I don't have enough room on the front side to build.
Yeah.
All structures that I'm allowed to build, given the covenants on the place, where everybody else did, so they chose to stay on the front side because the highway wasn't there and they had enough room to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And it really isn't like your change on your property isn't an injury to anybody else's property, because you're like the last one before that drainage goes farther, I want to say south, but it's really west downhill. The issue is that definition is a change to their covenants.
Okay.
And so they just need to, learn it to back.
So do you have a definition worked up? Do you have?
I believe we discussed one about a change is approved by an engineer.
Yeah, I don't have the exact language here with me, but I know we have some ideas of what we'd like it to look like.
Okay.
So maybe I can just email that to you.
Well, did I talk to you then about a change that was approved by an engineer dealing with flood?
We talked about
Okay.
that, but we never did, right?
Okay, I thought
Yes.
Tara had finalized that.
No, we haven't.
Okay. Well, we can do that pretty quickly. I'll work with
Okay.
Nicole and Tara and you.
And that would be the definition that I need to get consent from the neighbors of.
Basically, the issue is no
Yep.
build zone is not defined in state law, in the regulations or on that plat. We need to
Gotcha.
define it.
Yep.
So it comes down to it.
Okay.
Okay, can I take up?
Can I ask one question of you, Attorney? So then could that be filed with the Park Trail Ranch Estates as an exhibit? The definition of a no-build zone. I mean, that's essentially just because I want to be sure that Garrett understands and I understand what you're going to be asking of the citizens. So we are going to be defining a no-build zone. He will get consent from all of the landowners, and then we can file it as an exhibit with the Park Trail Ranch Estate. So there's no need to redo the plat
I
with
don't
an
think
added
there's a need
expense.
to do it, so
Okay.
long as when people go look at their property records, they can find that exhibit. It'd probably be a county resolution and an exhibit. You can do it on one, actually,
Okay.
right? And then, it would, if everyone consents, well, either way, there's a process that goes through some road there, so we'll talk about that. But I would say we'd mail that to every, to the property owners as well.
Okay.
And I have to look at the burden. I don't know if the burden's on you to notify them or on us, but, how many are we talking? 25 people?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think 20.
And then 24.
the big thing is we don't want someone in 3 years to go, no one ever told me about this,
Yep. I understand. And so with that, that'll give me access to the other side. And I guess the big deal right now was the septic permit, it not being able to be issued because I didn't have means to get across it.
Thank you.
So I guess if this gets held up, is there any way, if the culverts were gone, could I drive through the draw to access the other side to build?
I don't think we can restrict you from driving through the draw.
Okay.
But I guess, did you ever follow up with your other access though for the state? Because
Yes.
that easement is on your property, which,
Yes. Yep.
should be able to use, so.
So I did. I talked to the DOT yesterday and then again this morning. I filed an approach permit or an approach application again. Everything was filed. I heard back from the people in Bozeman. They said everything looks good. They wanted to make sure that they did not restrict the farmer's access to the grain bins. And I told him about the right of way that he had drawn in, so there was no way he could be restricted. And they said everything's good to go there. You'll hear back from us in 2 weeks, and that was 2 months ago. So I called them Thursday, and then again Friday, and there were some people out of town that needed the signature. So they didn't have the final paperwork done. Everybody I've talked to so far said it was okay.
So if it turned out, would that be better access for you anyway?
It would be. It would be.
Mhm.
The only thing, I guess, would probably be bad for you guys is a different address. So I'd at least need a 2-track. That's why I say if the culverts weren't in there, I would need to draw or access across through the draw. I can drive through the draw. That can be my main address. And then if it rains for this year, there wasn't ever a drop of water in the draw. But if it floods like it did last year,
Yeah.
I could drive around for 2 weeks.
Sure.
Can I add to that also? There's a commission required covenant
Right.
that all access to the lots in Park Trail Ranch Estates will be via the internal access road. And so then that comes back to the commission again. So he's in the same boat going around and getting approval, or consent, I guess is the word, from all of the landowners to amend that commission required covenant. So it's really the same process.
So basically what we need to do, we all are, I think, on the same understanding that you have a little bit of homework to do with your neighbors. and then come back to us and we'll work through planning and get the exhibits and the amendments done. Am I correct?
I believe first that Corey and I will get language. I know there were some emails between Tara and myself. Corey, I believe you also, Commissioner Folkford, being in your district. So we need to get that definition to you first so that you can actually take that
That's
definition
what we need.
for no
consent
build
to.
zone, and that's what the landowners will be consenting to.
Okay.
To that definition. So I think we can get that done. I mean, just within the next
Okay.
couple of days, just by pulling
Yeah.
documentation that we already have and putting it into a format that's legal and agreeable.
Okay,
Mike, do you have a comment?
The one thing that when you go to define this no build zone, as to what you're defining for a build zone is this definition is particular to this subdivision.
That is correct.
It's not a countywide definition of a no build zone. It's specifically this build zone.
That's
Because
correct.
we don't want to carry into every subdivision that we have.
Right. We may use it as a carbon copy for future subdivision. And I know we've all talked about amending our subdivision regulations, which needs to happen anyway, and including a definition of no build zone. So we may actually take some of that language and build it into our subdivision regs. But no, you're exactly right. What we are going to be doing at this stage is only for Park Trail Ranch Estates. So it will be an exhibit filed only with Park Trail Ranch Estates, not for the whole county.
Garrett, did you have another comment too?
Yeah, about sizing, I guess. What is your standard subdivision culvert sizing? Should I get an engineer working on this yet, or should I wait?
Well, I think that's what's gonna come down to, if your neighbors agree that they're okay with making this change, then that's the other part of this agreement, it has to be engineered.
Yep. So I guess should that be part of the definition too, as far as sizing it on the 10-year event or the 25-year event or?
Well, maybe it should be, and I guess the reason I'm thinking that is because if someone else wants to do that, they would have to follow the same process. You wouldn't want it to be different for everybody else.
Could we follow the same language we have in the road standards where it has to be engineered, but we don't specify the minutia of that? So as long as an engineer engineers it, stands by it, we're fine with it, but we're not gonna tell you it has to be whatever the diameter culvert. That would be up to your engineer. With-
Okay, so
That
there's no countywide standard as far as sizing goes, like flood events, like the math that I have from the DOT on the highway culverts for the 50-year event. Obviously, you can get away with a lot smaller size if you go to the 10-year event. So what would your recommendation for that be, as far as sizing goes, if you have
I don't think
one?
we have one.
I
Do
would
you
think
guys
that
know of one?
if the highway is at 50, then you need to be at 50, because if you put in something that's only 10 and it dams it up and sits there until it's 100, then it goes through their 50s, and somebody's responsible because that culvert was the size to match their 50.
Sure,
So for one
and
bottom,
so that's the engineer's job, is to figure out what event it should be sized for.
And they would take into account the ancillary properties, MDT, around them. But
Yeah.
that's why they get.
So the
that
same
stamp.
engineer they'll size me being above the culvert for the 50-year event. Downstream, they might size them for the 10-year event because there's no structures below that person in the draw.
My guess is that they do it uniform, but I'm not an engineer. But I know they take into account surveying,
Yep.
surrounding property.
Yep.
So, yeah,
I just want to make sure it's not, like if I come back here and you guys say, well, maybe we should do it for the 100-year event, it's easier to have it done up front, that's all.
yeah, we won't need.
They'll take care of it, and if they have any questions, they'll get a hold of you, I guess.
Absolutely, and we can double check our subdivision regs and our road regs to
Okay.
see if there's anything, but,
I think there's probably a minimum standard, but in this case, it's gonna be greater than the minimum standard.
Right.
Most likely.
Okay,
Okay, what I'm saying.
yep, perfect.
Okay.
Anything else I should know?
anything else you should know?
No, I will get back to you. definitely by Wednesday
Okay,
will be the latest that I will, but just, I need to pull through those emails, verify with Corey and with Tara the language so that you can start on this. I know you're anxious to get going.
yeah, it's kind of time.
It really is.
All right,
All right, thank you, Gary.
thank you, guys.
Nice to
Yep,
meet you, Garrett.
have a good
Thank
day.
you.
See you there.
All right, next we have Rolling Glen Ranch plat exhibit approval, Justin and Rebecca Osborne. Welcome again.
And I think we just have Rebecca, no Justin. Okay. Printed off your exhibit, I believe. You saw all of these in my documents. A copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Mr. and Mrs. Osborne purchased, is it lot 19? No, you're lot 15. Lot 15 of the Rolling Glen Ranch Estates. I didn't bring down the complete survey, but this is in the northeast corner. Oh, you do have it? Okay. The access to this lot 15 was a county road easement along the north boundary there. Topography makes that pretty difficult for them. So they have worked with their neighbors to obtain an easement to build a driveway.
Lot owner 14 is my brother, and then lot 13 obtained consent from me as well. I have the grant of access.
Perfect. They have those. They're not signed, but so you can keep the signed
Okay.
copies with you, and then we'll go
We just wanted to
upstairs.
verify that this is what we needed. So we got one notarized, but the other one, I think the owner lives in Germany, so we're gonna have to email it to him and send out the original. So I just want to make sure this was what we needed to send them before he went out.
And I believe that would be a legal question. I don't know. Could you answer that on behalf of the clerk and recorder on what they need to send for a grant of access easement?
An easement would be like any other recorded document. It would have to have whatever the legal wording is in it. It would have to be signed and notarized, and would be $7 per page to record. If it's a standard document, if it's a non-standard, it's an additional $10. So
Certainly. Okay.
Yeah.
But you can certainly take a look at the documents, but in my conversation with Mr. Osborne, we can't give a legal opinion on what that document, it would be no different than giving an opinion on a deed, a quitclaim or a warranty deed. That's just not what you would do. That's not what I would do or the clerk and recorder's office would do. That would be a legal opinion. I looked at the documents. They look typical for what we record.
So because this is just an exhibit, and we typically just support COSs that come to us, is there anything we're being asked to do beyond that with this today?
Not from me, but I know Rebecca is the one who requested time on the agenda. So if you have a specific ask of the commission, now's a good time.
I had just called, we were just trying to figure out what the next step was for them to get an address on the roadside and things. So I was just told them to come on the agenda.
Okay.
All right. So the address would be with you. And
And we've established a road name. Sorry to interrupt. We've established a road name unique to this.
Okay, that was one of my questions. So will this road actually service lots 13, 14, and 15?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be an established road with the name.
Correct. But since it didn't go through the subdivision review process, we are not able to put the same conditions. Well, we're actually not allowed to put any conditions on it. It would be similar to a named shared driveway. So it's up to them to construct it to the best of their ability, if that makes sense. Even though it's in a subdivision, this is not going through the subdivision review process for us to put a condition of engineering and construction of a subdivision road.
so it's like a driveway.
Basically, a shared driveway with a name.
So if we grant support today, does that, that doesn't affect your process with the address? It just gives you assurance that we're not going to throw some kind of a glitch into the process on you. Okay. Daryl or Nick, do you guys have any more questions?
I don't have any, no.
Daryl?
No, I was just looking at the road, that's It'll be quite the road, it looks like. You're just navigating terrain, is that the reason it's, okay.
It's a steep incline, so we had to do that.
So to give assurance to the Osborne couple, I would entertain a motion to approve, or to support this exhibit as presented, if you guys are so inclined.
I'll make a motion to support the exhibit as presented.
I will second it with a comment if I could.
All right, go for it.
So, you know, this road, even though we don't have any way of making any standards to the road, you realize that emergency services are gonna have to access it at some point, right? So I guess I'm just saying construct it so that the fire truck, the ambulance can get up there to help you guys if you need the help.
All right. So it has been moved and seconded to support the exhibit for Rolling Glen Ranch plat and the shared driveway as presented. Is there any public comment?
There is, it doesn't appear to be pertinent to this discussion, but since it's showing and we are not censoring comment, I'm going to read it into the record anyway. This is from Listen 13. They state, is this your idea of the new norm? Open meeting, why aren't you wearing masks? CDC reported that just speaking without a mask, COVID can be in the air 1 to 6 hours. And just how are all these COVID-19 bug directives going to be enforced?
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Listen 13 for your comment. All those, any public comment here in the room? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I hope that helps and good luck with everything. If you need anything at all, Nicole is great.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you get a set, Ann? All right, and our third act for this part of the play, certificate of survey review, the Gingrich family transfer. Are you with Gingrich's? No.
The Cambridge family transfer will be postponed until the next meeting.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, I should have noted that at the beginning.
That's all right.
And Richard, do you have the plat?
Why is this is you?
Pam, can I ask you a question? So clerk and recorder's office, can they record this document for her today?
Is it all signed and notarized?
Maybe it would be better to do it all at once. And is the one more.
So what else do you have? You have something else that you don't have?
There's one on August, there's one
Yeah, this, I would suggest just.
Well, and answering those questions, I'm going to get you started here.
Well, you do, I'm just gonna read that we are doing Aspen Estate subsequent minor subdivision, tract 4, west, final
And
west.
just make sure that you know, if you want them all returned to you, that's fine, I just need to know.
And I go into the courthouse tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, clerk and recorder, yeah, and 515, same as everything else.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, Nicole, I think the floor is yours whenever you are ready.
Super. So to only risk breaking the 6-foot rule one time, I'm going to give you the whole stack of documents now. Okay.
Thank you.
And Richard Sparrow is the developer on this project, and he is here should you have questions.
Welcome, Richard. Thanks for coming.
So I will go through these list of conditions, and Anna, if you would be so kind just to pass them around. They all have a sticky number on them indicating their order. All right, so this is the Aspen Estates Tract 4, subsequent minor subdivision. They are requesting final plat approval. The developers are Richard and Jen Sparrow. They are splitting this lot in half. And I think you can see the no-build zone and everything clearly on those plats. Okay. Condition number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply shall be submitted to the Broadwater County Environmental Health Department for review and approval. The letter of approval shall be filed with the final plat. I'll wait till you all have a chance to look through those before moving on. Number 2, prior to any development and or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the County Weed District for review and approval. All specifications and requirements of the approved plan shall be met. You should have a signed and approved weed management plan. I'm going to read number 3 because it's nothing tangible. Number 3 states the applicant will be required to submit the preliminary plat and final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. And I have those on my computer. Number 4. The applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. And I believe on there it states $1,000 per lot for water supply, and I have a check here for $2,000 that will be deposited directly into the Broadwater County Rural Fire District Fund. Number 5 pertains to the plat itself. The no-build zones shown on the filed Aspen Estates minor subdivision plat shall be shown on this final plat. And I believe those are clearly defined. Number 6 is also the plat. The final plat shall be prepared in accordance with the applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Platting Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. Number 7. Prior to any development, an approach permit shall be requested from the County Road Department for the access point off of LF Baum Road. All requirements of the approved permit shall be met. Number 8, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenants filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable, only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, per the subdivision application, all lots shall be used for residential purposes only. B, no build zone shall apply to structures as defined by the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. C, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. D, a notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is zone 3. E, a notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. F, any additional replacement or relocated utility lines shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations, unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. G, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property lines. H, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and or wastewater treatment system improvements and or maintenance. I, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and signs, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees, arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and or maintenance of the following. Subitem 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and subitem 2, water availability. J, notification of the presence of agricultural operations in the vicinity. K, lots shall only allow for livestock if a small acreage livestock management plan is reviewed and approved by the county extension agent and submitted to the county. Each lot owner shall be required to create and adhere to their own livestock management plan. L, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. M, a prohibition of the storage of foods, garbage, or other activities that creates an attractive nuisance for wildlife species. Hay or alfalfa storage and feeding are not prohibited where livestock are permitted. N, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. O, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. P, a waiver of the right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. Number 9, prior to filing the final plat, the following improvements shall be installed or otherwise guaranteed. A, any necessary improvements required by the stormwater drainage plan, weed management plan, or approach permits. And there were no additional requirements. Number 10A, provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies. And 10B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders or claimants of record against the land. And that concludes their list of conditions, and I just realized I forgot a special pen. So should you move to approve, you'll have to allow me to run upstairs.
Any questions for Nicole from the board? And our job today is to, we can't impose anything new. The question before us is, did they meet the preliminary plat requirement to qualify for the final plat? Nicole, if you want to run up and grab those pens now, that might be the best way to go. before the preliminary plat, there was a public hearing on this subdivision, and no public attended, and there were no comments received. We don't have to do public hearings with most subdivisions, but this one, it was done with the planning board. Great, now that Nicole is back, do you guys have any questions for her? All right, we have any for the landowner and the.
No.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion, if you guys are so inclined, to grant final plat.
I'll make a motion to approve, Aspen Estates minor subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
Right, it has been moved and seconded to grant final plat to Aspen Estates subsequent minor subdivision tract 4. Is there any public comment?
There appears to be, yes. I'm sorry, I put my sticker up. Again, I don't know that this is relevant to the conversation, but listen 13 says, no gloves either. Do what I say, not what I do. Just exactly how many county employees were furloughed. Craig Burns, are we at any point going to discuss the effects of the school shutting down? Parents are not working while they wait for it to open. How can parents work and teach their children all day?
All right, thank you very much for those comments. Thanks, Nicole. Any public comment here in the room? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
This is actually my pen, there's only one of them, so as you pass the pen, you can also pass.
So we need to splurge and spend the $5 for the date I have. Check for costs.
Thank you.
They're sticking to the table. I'm gonna pass this over to you, Mike. There's the pen, and here's the sticky flats.
Okay, no, let's just do that. Yeah, all right.
Congratulations, Richard.
Just thank you guys very much. So Nicole, you'll let us know.
Ann and I will figure it out. I'll stand there while she tells me how much, and then I'll email Jen this afternoon.
Okay.
And so then that way she can just mail a check and we'll record it. You don't even have to be here for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll all use Nicole.
Perfect. Thank you.
sometimes if you're having trouble getting dry, hold it up straight for a minute. Well, I think feel that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, anything else for us, Nicole?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
we will move on to our 12:45. Mike Conkey, DES Homeland Security Grant, authority to use grant to purchase two-way radios. Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I had a couple things. They had a couple items since I emailed that out to you. So, in March of 2018, we applied for a grant application, a little less than $100,000 for radios for public safety agencies. We did not get that grant, and money went somewhere else. Recently, I was contacted by Montana DES. It's out of that grant year, there's some federal funds left. They're called reverted funds that some agencies didn't spend. They didn't spend it all, it goes back. And now we came up on the priority list. Our county is next in order, and they got $30,394.50. And I thought, well, gee, yeah, we could spend some of that. So, in the meantime, we got that Phillips 66 grant for the Yellowstone pipeline for about $40,000. So we filled in some of the stuff the fire department, search and rescue needs. So now we have a couple of priorities. One is EMS, and the other Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office, they bought 2 new cars. They needed a radio for one of those cars. One of those radios that they did have is actually in the DES vehicles there. It came from them. So what I'm proposing here is a mobile radio for the Sheriff's Office vehicle. And then the hospital, county owns 2 ambulances, and they both need new multi-band radios with encryption, all the stuff that's required by the state. And then the hospital's base station has stopped working. And so we estimate there what that's gonna cost. Cyrus here is a paramedic, and he's looked into this for us and tell us a little bit more about the base station in the hospital, if that's okay. That's where you want us to go next.
Yeah, Cyrus, anything you can share with us would be appreciated. Thank you.
So yeah, the radio on the base station was the same age as well, the ones on 2 in the ambulances, just mounted in a kind of like a computer box that has a power converter and a fan in it, and it quit working back in December. We sent it in to see if they could find anything for it, and there's no, it's so old, they've discontinued it, can't get parts for it or anything right now, and they just recommended it being replaced. So that's what it'll spec out for, cost of a new one for. It'll be similar to what was in there, just a newer model, and able to work it. We upgrade the radio system in the county in the future too.
And that's included in the cost here.
Yeah.
All right.
That was 100% funding, Homeland Security grant money. Has nothing to do with the grants we applied for, the generator for this year, different fiscal year, and then also for the security for the courthouse. This goes back to a grant year. We do not want this money, use the money, and then we notify Montana DES, and it goes into the next priority list. The next county would have an opportunity to spend it. We have to spend this money by August 31st of this calendar year, and then have everything taken care of by October 31st, all the bills paid, close out the grant period. So anyway, that's what I'm recommending, proposing. This is gonna be proprietary equipment like Motorola, trunking and stuff to match everything else we got. There's a Western consortium that buys from Motorola directly. They call it Motorola Solutions Incorporated. We get bids through our Motorola dealers in Montana, and then we buy at a discount. Federal, state, and local agencies can do that. And that's how we would buy it through that. And then we would bill directly. We pay the bill directly to Motorola, and a vendor, local vendor, would install it and stuff like that. Program and stuff. Any questions?
Questions for Silas or Mike? Right, so this is in the interest of full disclosure. We did have a deadline and we all three approved signing this grant on the 22nd of April. So our vote today is to reaffirm moving forward with this grant and accepting the updates from Mike.
To authorize spend money too.
Oh, and authorize the money, yes.
Pursuant to our
Yes.
county procurement policy. Anything over $5,000 has to be approved by the board of council.
So whenever you guys are ready, I entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we support the Homeland Security grant for the two-way radios.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to support the Homeland Security grant for radios. If I may offer a friendly amendment with the updates from Mike and to authorize acceptance of the money. Right, any public comment, Nicole?
Yes, this is from Listen 13, who states, would be nice if the agenda was posted here so the public can follow what's happening. And Craig Burns, it seems to be business as usual, which is just so odd considering the circumstances around us. I did put in here a comment to please go to www.townsendmt.com to view the agenda, which is where it is posted.
Thank you for that.
Because I do not know how to post it to YouTube.
And if anybody wants this handout, just tell me. Let you know. I can email this handout to anybody who wants it.
Very good. We can also put it on the website if you want.
Absolutely. All the information.
All right, so all those, any public comment from in the room? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We do that none. All right, thank you very
Commissioner.
much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for coming. All right, so next we have a contract from We Staff for COVID-19 reopening, cleaning plan for the courthouse, work comp. Yeah, so let's just start with that one. So that person we are contracting to help keep the courthouse clean for this reopening requires a whole lot more than what we're used to doing. Here is the contract. This was also approved via email by the three of us, so we can have that person started today. That was required for us to be able to open the doors, and one of the things that delayed us in doing that. The report I got so far is they're doing a great job. And I would accept a motion to approve this contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the reset for the COVID cleaning.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the We Staff contract for COVID-19 reopening and cleaning plan for the courthouse. Any public comment, Nicole?
Yes, Cheryl Campbell says, what is the cost?
The cost will be, we don't know the total cost. It will be reimbursed. because everything
Yeah,
connected.
how would the cost, I guess, if that helps,
18 to 26.
1858 to 2168 is the service rate. Now, that's not what this person is making. That is also a contract fee with we staff. The custodial worker is making 12 to 14 per hour. And again, that will be reimbursed as all costs with COVID-19 are. So I appreciate the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we have the work comp quote request, and this was a request by Payne West for the ability for them to give us a quote to be our agent for workers' compensation. And there's that. This was also approved via email, so we could get that rolling.
Now I'll make the motion to approve the Payne West request for workers' comp.
And I'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the work comp request, get a quote from Payne West. Any public comment? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we have the Brownfields Land Farm Certificates. This was also approved via email on the 21st of April, and somehow that got missed last year. So this is just a pickup, but we do still need to approve it. And this is with the ambulance building and the Brownfields cleanup of the petroleum fleet.
I'll make a motion to approve the Brownsfield Land Farm certificate site approval.
And I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the land farm operator certificate for the Brownfields Land Farm. Public comment? No? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And the last one we have is with Tri-County Fire. This is the protection plan. And this was also approved via email on April 21. And all these were unanimous of the full board.
I think I make a motion to approve the Tri-County Wildfire Protection Plan.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve signing of the Tri-County Wildland Protection Plan. Is there any public comment?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, and I just minimized my screen. Sorry, I forgot it was a touch screen. This is from Listen 13. I think this is more directed to me. It says, Nicole, check out Granite County Commission Montana YouTube. Not hard at all to post the link or to copy and paste agenda. Just saying. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you again for the comment. In-house. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, next, this came to us from Denning and Downey, who is our annual county auditor. And they asked that this be read into the record. This is Broadwater County, Montana. We are engaged in audit and financial statements of the government activities and business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of Broadwater County for the year ended December 13th, 2019, the last fiscal year. Professional standards require that we provide you with the following information relative to your audit. We would also appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to discuss the information further, since a two-way dialogue can provide valuable information for the audit process. We usually do have an exit audit with Bob Denning himself. Our responsibility under U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standard. As stated in our engagement letter dated July 23, 2018, our responsibility as described by professional standards is to express opinions about whether the financial statements prepared by management with their oversight are fairly presented. In all material respects, in conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles, our audit of the financial statements does not relieve you or your management of your responsibilities. As part of our audit, we will consider the internal control of Broadwater County. Such considerations will be solely for purpose of determining our audit procedures and not to provide any assurance concerning such internal controls. As part of obtaining reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatements, we will also perform this test of Broadwater County's compliance with certain provisions of law and regulations, contracts, and grants. However, providing an opinion on compliance with your provisions is not an objective of our audit. Our responsibility is to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. We are responsible for communicating significant matters relative to the audit that are, in our professional judgment, relevant to your responsibilities of overseeing the financial reporting process. However, we are not required to design procedures specifically to identify such matters. We give significant consideration to conflicts of interest such as financial interest, business or family relationships, and independence between audit and non-audit services, and help put safeguards on place to ensure continued independence. Generally accepted accounting principles provide for certain required supplementary information, RSI, to supplement the basic financial statements. Our responsibility with respect to budget, comparison schedule, and budget to GAAP, reconciliation schedule of total EP, liability and related ratios, schedule of proportionate share of net pension liability, schedule of contributions which supplement the basic financial statement, is to apply certain limited procedures in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards. However, the RSI will not be audited, and because the limited procedures do not provide us with sufficient evidence to explain an opinion or provide any assurance, we will not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the RSI. Plan, scope, timing of the audit and order an audit includes examining on a test basis evidence supporting the amounts of disclosures in the financial statements. Therefore, our audit will involve judgment about the number of transactions to be examined and the areas to be tested. Our audit will include obtaining an understanding of the entity of an environment, including internal controls sufficient to assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements and to design the nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures. Material misstatements may result from 1, errors, 2, fraudulent financial reporting, 3, misappropriation of assets, or 4, violations of law or governing regulations that are attributable to the entity or to the acts of management or employees acting on behalf of the entity. They will generally communicate our significant findings at the conclusion of the audit. However, some matters could be communicated sooner, particularly if significant difficulties are encountered during the audit, where assistance is needed to overcome the difficulties, or if the difficulties may lead to modified opinion. We will also communicate any internal control related matters that are required to be communicated under professional standards. We expect to begin an audit approximately April 27, 2020, and issue our report on approximately June 30th, 2020. Robert Downing is the engagement partner and is responsible for supervising the engagement and signing the report or authorizing another individual to sign it. This information is intended solely for the use of Broadwater County Commissioners and management of Broadwater County, and is not intended to be and should not be used by anyone other than these specified parties. So, there you go. Any questions? All right, any questions from the public, Nicole?
No, ma'am.
All right. Next on the agenda, Board of Crime Control, COVID-19. The Board of Crime Control has received a ability to grant to each county $50,000 to help with COVID-19 needs. So that did send that to Wynn. I expect he's putting something together, but for sure I would think the detention center is most glaring. But, he knows his department governors better than anyone else. So, it's, you know, it's not gonna solve all the problems, but certainly $50,000 is a nice assist. You guys have any comments or questions on that? Okay. Canister rental, and any questions on that or anything from the public?
Seeing nothing.
All right. And with the conversation earlier today, a 50,000 grant just for the, $50,000 grant just for the sheriff's office, isn't that shocking? All right, so next, canister rental and solid waste overpayment and reimbursement. Canister rental was taken care of last week. You guys were involved in that. Not a big deal. She just was looking for an invoice. And solid waste overpayment reimbursement. So this happened a couple months ago. Our director of public works was working with a gentleman who was overbilled for solid waste, and it is Stonehouse Distillery. So the supervisor went out, the director went out and took a look at the facility to see how much garbage was generated, and did inform him and us as well that she thought he was being overcharged. So she had authorized a reimbursement of his second solid waste fee. That just hasn't been done yet, probably because of the personnel changeover there. So what I would like to do is have the commission support that and ask them to go ahead and follow through with that. You guys are good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right. Carol?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
And I think just the three of us saying we're good with that, I'm good with it too, should be sufficient. Yes, Bobby?
What was the overpayment? How much? What was the amount?
Well, it's, each person is assessed $185. So he was assessed 2 solid waste fees. So if we took one away, it would be $185. So he was paying $185 plus $185 because he had 2. His garbage generation is so small, she did not feel that it should be 2, it should just be 1. Anyone from the public on that? All right. Okay, I will speak to Doug and let him know. And now what we have is a little bit of mail. And then we're done. So the first one is a letter. This is from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is FERC. And this email is to acknowledge receipt of a letter from February 27, providing the public safety plan update for the Broadwater project, FERC number 28. You guys want to see that's been in our mail for a couple of weeks. We do have a report back from DPHHS. The nitrates came back in the silos at 1.58. The EPA water drinking limit is 10. It's well below that, so we are fine with that. We also have the STIP, Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and the updated information is at www.mdt.mt.gov. And anybody who's interested is more than welcome to go and take a look. And we have a, this is from DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, and they are engaging in a rule change, and we'll have a public hearing June 17th at 10 a.m., and this will be in room 111 at the Metcalf building in Helena. Okay, and we have a letter from Cheryl Campbell dated April 24. And before I read that, I will just pass this to you guys. I did email that to you. She is asking, dear commissioners, attached is a copy of my letter dated March 6, 2020. It has been more than 7 weeks since that letter, and it has been more than 2 weeks since that letter was read at the April 6th commission meeting. Commissioners, those questions are not rhetorical. Your courtesy of a written response and any supporting documents that answers all these questions within 10 days will be appreciated. This was delayed due to the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. We did get an email this morning from Sean Higley, who was the engineer on the project, and the response, which I will read into the record if you guys are good with it, includes sections of the minutes and also documents to answer her questions. And that is directly from Sean. And Sean's email with all the different documents was sent to the three of us. I guess I would ask for two things. One is support for that letter to Cheryl, and the second, I think we should have a vote for Stonehouse Distillery, just so that Doug has that documentation.
I'll make a motion to approve the reduction of solid waste fees to the Stonehouse.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to grant a reimbursement of the overpayment of solid waste for Stonehouse Distillery and keep their assessment at 1.
Was he asking for a reimbursement?
Mhm.
Or did you like that, or you just wanted to change it?
No, and if we reimburse this year, it stands to reason we would not charge 2 next year.
Right.
Yeah. You still good with that?
Yes.
All right. Any public comment? I see a yellow sticky.
Yes, indeed. This is from Jeffco Solid Waste. Commercial are different than residential. This next one is from Listen 13. Regarding the 50,000 COVID grant, where online would I find how much will be designated to each department? I heard something about it all going to the sheriff's department.
Yes, all going to the sheriff's department. 50,000. And we don't have commercial assessments. It's just one assessment. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And do you want to okay the response to Cheryl Campbell, or do you want to wait and edit some more?
Well, I think that's good for right now, until Sean gets his information.
He already did. It was emailed to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and it went to all three of us, and that is, you have the letter, but it is contained there, those documents.
Okay.
Is that good with you?
Yeah.
All right, if you pass those back, I'll read that into the record, give it to Ann for recording purposes. I'll keep that with the other. Thank you. So the response, thank you for your letters inquiring into the Lower Deep Creek project bid process. Commissioners met in advertised meetings on June 12, July 17, July 24, 2017, specifically about bidding for this project. Those meetings and the bidding process were all publicly noticed. For specific questions to your answers to your questions, here are excerpts from the minutes pertaining to the bids and companies. I'm not going to read those. The county follows a formal process that is publicly noticed. There are many meetings about the Little Deep Creek project regarding bidding here regarding bidding here are 3. July 12, 2017. I would suggest an edit to this letter because I think that's that last sentence we can just strike because it's repeated above. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll just retype and take out the last paragraph, and then we can sign it and send it to Cheryl. Yep, all right. So they won't change though. It's the same letter, just minus the typo on my part. And that also includes all the documents. All right, so the last thing we have is claims. These are the approved claims in the amount of $81,771.11.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims and set them out.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims in the amount of $81,771.11. Is there any public comment?
Oh, I do.
Oh,
Sure. Here.
Pop
This,
right in.
again, is from Listen 13, none to the hospital.
None to the hospital.
The Board of the Crime Control grant.
Board of Crime Control grant is for law enforcement. All right, any other comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. It appears that is it for the morning session. Thank you. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order before we recess?
I have a question, I have 2 actually.
All right, Bobby?
The 3 o'clock Julie Superior, is that, we're not doing that?
Yes, but it's only 2:30.
Okay, so you'll re-adjourn for 3 o'clock?
We're gonna recess.
Recess and come back. All right, and then my next one is, on the April 20th commissioner meeting, during that meeting, a reporter from Readout News was not granted access to the commissioner meeting, and was actually a commissioner called 911 to have him escorted out. On what grounds was that decision based? There weren't 10 people, and he could have left if he needed to. So on what grounds was he moved?
There were a couple, but we had a process we had put in place that complied with the governor's directive, and we were following that to the letter. Under the idea of, as you do for one, you do for all. We don't give special treatment to one individual over others.
But I was granted access because I'm a newspaper of public record.
That's correct.
Okay, but is that, what was the directive saying that he couldn't, what guideline were you?
I don't have it with me, but we had a written process we put together following the governor's directive, and we followed it to the letter.
So wasn't that, you were allowed 10 people in the room?
It does not say thou shalt try and maximize to 10 people in the room. The directive says you can have no more than 10. And that's what we strive to do. Just like now, we didn't throw out an advertisement to say we just have 6 in right now, let's try and get 4. You don't do that. The directive says no more than 10.
Okay.
And that's what we did.
So, was anybody else told to leave?
Today, we had 12 in this room at one point. We had 2 go out into the hall so that we maintained 10 in this room.
Right.
When 2 more left,
on April 20th.
then we allowed them to come in.
On April 20th, during that meeting, when he was asked to be removed.
We had other people who were there, and per our written description and process of how we would operate meetings, they stayed for their agenda item because they were pre-approved as part of our written policy. As soon as that was over, they left. So yes. Okay, all right. Any other comment before our recess?
I have one final comment from Craig Burns. He says, of course, it all goes to the sheriff, as does the majority of all spending in the county.
All right, and on that note, we are recessed for 34 minutes till
Is Julie calling in here? Is that how we can do that?
I think we had a call in to NACO, and she's gonna